This morning, a controversial plan to address crime in Atlanta's Edgewood neighborhood is no longer moving forward. City leaders have pulled a plan that would have stopped new liquor licenses from being issued along Edgewood Avenue for 180 days. That plan was introduced following that mass shooting in July of last year. City officials say the ordinance created confusion. Business owners who oppose the moratorium say they're relieved. They want the focus to shift to other ways to improve public safety.
But it's not a question of should we ban alcohol. It's a question of how do we have a premier destination, and that only happens when the businesses take the lead to make sure that their individual companies are running well and our streets are running well. That's where the city comes in at. Doing outright bans are not efficient ways of being able to tackle public safety.
Edgewood business owners have formed the historic King District Association. They recently met with Atlanta police to start developing a public safety strategy for that area.